At one point, it was nearly unthinkable that Sarah Ferguson would vanish from the spotlight. She always seemed to find a way back, regardless of how harsh the criticism got or how many headlines said that her public existence was over. She endured years of public speculation about her position in Britain's most renowned family, financial troubles that dominated newspaper front pages, the world-famous royal divorce, and constant media monitoring. Every obstacle seemed to turn into a new chapter in a remarkable tale of recovery. This is in contrast to the monarchy, but today, a distinct question is beginning to emerge among royal critics and longtime observers. Has the woman who established a career on defying expectations finally reached the point where even reinvention has become difficult? The answer is far more nuanced than a straightforward yes or no. The reason for this is that Sarah Ferguson's headlines. This is because Sarah Ferguson's headlines. Greetings from the channel once again. You're in the perfect place if you're captivated by the unseen tales, unexpected turning points, and human drama that surround the British royal family. Every week, one of the world's headlines. Make sure to subscribe and enable notifications if you like that kind of content, so you never miss any of our extensive royal features. Let's now examine why Sarah Ferguson's most recent chapter might be among the most important in her life. Long sharp contrast was an enthusiastic personality of the royal charisma. She was friendly, funny, impulsive, and incredibly personable, according to friends. She was one of the most well-liked new members of the royal family in the 1980s thanks to these attributes. Cameras followed her everywhere she went. Newspapers praised her contagious laugh, and a large portion of the public perceived her as someone who restored a feeling of normalcy to an establishment that was frequently chastised for seeming aloof. For a short while, Sarah appeared to be the embodiment of a more contemporary monarchy. However, the public's perception of royal life is rarely realistic. Every era can become worldwide news due to the high scrutiny that comes with living in a monarchy. Every friendship, business choice, interview, and personal struggle becomes a part of a narrative in which millions of people have a stake. Sarah quickly learned that fame may vanish just as fast as it comes. She faced tremendous strain on a personal and professional level during the early 1990s due to a number of well-reported scandals that drastically changed how she was perceived. Although many thought the incidents would put a stop to Sarah's public career, she consistently displayed a talent that few public people have. She adjusted. She started reconstructing her life through authoring, television, public speaking, charitable work, and business collaborations after leaving her official royal duties. Reinvention evolved beyond a tactic, it turned become a need. She was introduced to new audiences through children's novels. Instead of just reacting to newspaper headlines, she was able to share her own narrative through television appearances. Speaking engagements stressed topics of resilience, personal growth, and overcoming hardship. Individuals are either one thing. Sarah Ferguson's for decades. Every dispute eventually gave way to another chance. Every challenging time was followed by a new initiative, interview, or effort to reinvent herself. It was often noted by royal analysts that Sarah had a remarkable will to continue forward regardless of public opinion. She constantly sought for methods to stay involved, current, and optimistic, in contrast to many former public people who discreetly withdraw from the spotlight. One of the defining qualities of the defining characteristics of the public determination. However, the public has drastically changed. Compared to earlier generations, audiences today study historical events much more intensely. Social media makes it possible for previous associations, historical stories, and interviews to resurface in public discourse in a matter of hours. Stories that used to vanish with the news cycle are now always available. Rebuilding a public image is therefore far more difficult than it was 20 or even 10 years ago. This development, according to many observers, has radically altered the rules governing public life, especially for those whose careers have developed over several decades. Concurrently, the British monarchy has been going through one of the biggest changes in contemporary history. Following the departure of Queen Elizabeth II, King Charles III inherited an institution facing huge public expectations. modernizing the monarchy, cutting expenses, and concentrating official responsibilities on fewer working royals have all gained prominence. The story of Sarah Ferguson now takes place in the context of institutional transformation. Public opinions have also changed as a result of health issues. Sarah has been candid about receiving treatment for breast cancer in recent years, and she later disclosed that she had been diagnosed with skin cancer. Her openness to talk about those experiences sparked a lot of empathy and served as a reminder to many that there is a person dealing with extremely personal issues behind every headline. In the course of the royal family, recovery, support, and much of the royal family, resilience, and much of the royal family, and much of the royal family, and much of the conversation. It was one of the few times that the media paid more attention to her will to move on than to her history. However, the public's interest in her destiny has never faded. There are still unanswered questions about where she plans to live, what part, if any, she wants to play in public life, and whether another big reinvention is still possible. New rumors that she may once again be getting ready for a new chapter have been sparked by recent reports indicating that she has thought about staying longer in London. Although Sarah has not yet confirmed those stories, they have rekindled debate about whether she plans to raise her profile in the public eye or instead prioritize her family, philanthropic endeavors, and personal endeavors. The fact that Sarah Ferguson's story never neatly fits into a single narrative is perhaps its most astonishing feature. She is perceived as a tenacious survivor, an unusual princess, a talented writer, a loving mother, a philanthropist, or a person whose life has been continually complicated by controversy, depending on who is telling it. The reality is probably more nuanced. There are times when 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 there are a lot of public criticism. She remains one of the most intriguing figures associated with the contemporary British monarchy because of those divergent experiences. The question of whether Sarah Ferguson can make headlines is no longer the only one. She has demonstrated that history has previously proved that history can occur. The most intriguing question is whether she can recast her public legacy in a time when institutions are evolving, audiences want more openness, and every historical chapter is still accessible with a few clicks. In her entire public existence, that challenge might turn out to be the most significant and possibly the most challenging. Ferguson was long ago. Unlike the intensity, the intense protocol, the intense protocol, and the intense protocol. Her ability to lighten a room with humor rather than formality was frequently remarked by those who knew her. Almost immediately after she announced her engagement to Prince Andrew in 1986, her personality helped her establish a connection with the public. Sarah seemed to represent a revitalizing vitality that contrasted with the more conventional image many associated with the monarchy, and Britain was eager for another tale of royal love. Millions of people watched her wedding at Westminster Abbey, and for a while it seemed like she had found her calling. Although the early years of her marriage were full of hope, many outsiders were unaware of how difficult royal life was behind the scenes. Prince naval career. Every clothing became a conversation starter, every expression was captured on camera, and every appearance was documented. Living in the public life meant that there was one of the world. There are a headline, an international challenge. Royal historians have frequently pointed out that not everyone finds it simple to adapt to such a setting, which calls for an extraordinary degree of discipline. As the years passed, fissures in the marriage were increasingly harder to ignore. Public appearances persisted, the family welcomed two daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, and official photos showed harmony. However, frequent rumors indicated that the relationship was under tremendous pressure due to the duties of royal responsibilities, extended separations, and significant media attention. By the early 1990s, there was nearly continual conjecture regarding their marriage's destiny. The pair eventually parted ways before getting a formal divorce in 1996. The marriage's dissolution signaled the end of one chapter but also the start of another, one that would turn out to be just as uncertain. Divorce from a senior royal would have meant discreetly disappearing from the public eye for a lot of individuals. Sarah Ferguson made a different decision. Rather than disappearing, she began seeking alternatives beyond royal walls, aiming to forge an independent career. She soon found that publishing was one of her strongest mediums. She worked as a collaborated on lifestyle as an author. Additionally, television created additional opportunities. Instead of hearing from unnamed royal sources or newspaper rumors, audiences were able to hear directly from her through interviews. Over time, public humor, honesty, resilience. Supporters praised her perseverance in continuing to produce despite numerous losses, while detractors questioned some of her business choices. One of the princes is the Princess Royal Watch's life. They stayed close friends and frequently continued to live together for long stretches of time, in contrast to many ex-couples. Together, they prioritized parenting Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, continuously presenting a united face as parents despite the breakdown of their marriage. In the same way that Andrew has been spoken. One of the most unique post-conventive separation. As the 21st century proceeded, Sarah increasingly balanced numerous identities at once. She was a public speaker, novelist, businesswoman, former princess, and supporter of philanthropic organizations. She had established interests in children's literacy. Despite these achievements, it became evident that she would never be able to fully escape her royal status. Every new endeavor unavoidably produced headlines that connected her to the monarchy. Whether she was doing an interview, attending a charity gala, or promoting a book, the topic of her relationship with the royal family kept coming up. It was a difficulty as well as a benefit. She remained relevant because of her royal link, but it also made sure that the public was always aware of previous controversies. Financial complexity of her narrative. Sarah has publicly admitted to going through times of severe financial hardship throughout the years, especially after her divorce. She has talked about having to acquire challenging lessons about personal economics, business, and how to make a living outside of the formal royal life. Personal resilience, public resiliation. Even while not all of her business endeavors were profitable, her willingness to keep working demonstrated a desire to maintain her financial independence rather than depending entirely on royal ties. Sarah Ferguson's refusal to define herself by a single chapter of her life may be what sets her apart from many other public people. She has been trapped in the past. That perseverance is seen by supporters as commendable resolve. It is sometimes interpreted differently by critics, who contend that public accountability ought to go hand in hand with reinvention. Sarah has been a part of the most different perspectives. Then came a time when priorities completely changed. Health worries replaced public appearances as Sarah underwent treatment for various ailments, including breast cancer, followed by a diagnosis of skin cancer. Widespread offers of support from the public, media, and political spectrum were generated by these intensely personal struggles. For the first time, family, conflict, recuperation, and perhaps the tight family ties Sarah has always referred to as the cornerstone of her life was strengthened by her daughter's obvious support during this trying time. As her conditions steadily improved, interest inevitably shifted to potential future developments. Would a more benevolent public family choose? Rumors that she might be getting ready for a new chapter, one that would put her closer to her kids, grandchildren, and the hub of British public life, were stoked by reports that she had looked into housing options in London. Whether such rumors turn out to be true or not, they reveal a more general truth about Sarah Ferguson. People are still incredibly interested in what she will do next, even after decades in the spotlight. There is more to that persistent intrigue than just a single headline. The development of the monarchy itself, an institution that must strike a balance between centuries of history and the demands of a society that is changing quickly, is reflected in Sarah Ferguson's story. Her experiences show how public life has changed during the past 40 years, where reputations can fluctuate and be re-evaluated numerous times. Sarah's path serves as an intriguing reminder that resilience, reinvention, and public perception frequently change together in unexpected ways, as Britain continues to reassess the role of its royal family in the 21st century.